Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is March 18th, Wednesday night, 2020. Glad to see everybody here tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get our latest Grand Solar Minimum news update amongst other things. Right now, our solar wind speed's coming in at 416.9 kilometers per second with a density of 8.5. And check out the sun. It is blank once again. That is now 8 days in a row, 58 days in 2020 without sunspots, giving us a total of 74% of 2020 without sunspots. So, wow. Anybody who thought that we were not going to be experiencing any kind of solar minimum through the spring was sadly mistaken. And I know people like Starman and Lee and others who have told us that really seeing solar minimum conditions in April and beyond, we could actually see where we break records, space age records of cosmic radiation absorption in the atmosphere. So we're close right now. Actually, something must have happened there. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, I don't know what I was saying before, but sunspots. We are not seeing any right now. Let's go over to the space weather section of grandsolarminimum.com. Thank you, Matt. I just got a message from Matt telling me, hey, guy, unmute it, please. We can't hear you. Typical Grand Solar Minimum gaffes. Like I said, we are the Joe Biden of Grand Solar Minimum gaffes on YouTube, let me tell you. Anywho, so our star right now, taking a look at what we have. This is just now appearing. It is not labeled as a sunspot yet, but this is new activity that has kind of sparked up. And let's go see if I can get another image of this. Usually the SDO has a pretty good, if it'll play. We've had some issues with it. So if you guys watch this, this will kind of develop on us. Any minute here. I promise it'll happen. Okay, so right there, I'll point it out real quick with the arrow. This is the area that I'm talking about. But this was also the spot that I thought beyond the eastern limb that was going to be a problem. It didn't. It hasn't, but it has reemerged a little bit with a little bit more activity than we thought. Before that, though, nothing else. It's pretty quiet. We have potential coronal hole. And I know this is kind of hard to see, but this is where we have Earth facing right here. So if we go right there, we do have a coronal hole that they're expecting some kind of possible activity of increased solar wind speeds hitting us on March 19th. Now, before we check out any more of the stats, let's go check out the KP indices sitting at a 3 with a 24-hour max of 3. And our TCI, which is a thermosphere climate index, that's the very top of the atmosphere. And right now, that is not at the coldest levels. That record is set at 2.05. Now, we have been in that value of 2 point and some change, but we have not quite yet gotten to the space age record level. So even though this minimum is not quite over, we still could see record-setting space age information such as the TCI temperatures, cosmic radiation, and still looking at quite a few days without sunspots here so far in 2020. Just like last year was the record with the days without sunspots in a solar minimum, or on space age record since we kept time, I believe. Or it was deeper. Let's just say this. Last year's spotless days was more than any other solar cycle we've seen in over the last 200 years. So All right, let's go ahead and check out some articles tonight. Number one story of the day, in my opinion, for Grand Solar Minimum News is going to be this. Earthquake. Strong 5.7 earthquake hits Salt Lake City, Utah. Largest since 1992. Talking to a couple of you out there in the chat earlier. And I think it's GC out there. He says he has family that's out that way. No damage reported yet. And let's go ahead and read and see what they say here at the Watchers. It says here this hit somewhere around 1309 UTC time on March 18, 2020. It's reporting a depth of 6.6 miles. This is the largest earthquake in Utah since the 5.9 near St. George in 1992. That was the EMSC was reporting a 5.6 of the depth of 5 miles. Yellow alert was issued for economic losses. Some damages is possible and the impact should be relatively localized. The estimated economic losses are less than 1% of GDP. This is all standard statistics here. Overall, the population in this region resides in structures that are resistant to earthquake shaking through vulnerable structures, though vulnerable structures do exist. The predominant vulnerable building types are unenforced brick masonry and reinforced masonry construction. Recent earthquakes in this area have caused secondary hazards, such as landslides, that might have contributed to losses. According to local authorities, the quake was felt across Salt Lake City and in Ogden. There are no reports of deaths, injuries, but damage reports are coming in. According to the power outages, last check was 74,821 customers in Utah without power. That was as of 1446 UTC time. We are currently assessing damages and will restore power as soon as possible, Rocky Mountain Power said, confirming large-scale power outage. The Salt Lake City International Airport is reported to be flooding from broken pipes and evacuated. I saw some video of that on Facebook. Let's see if Watchers has us any footage. Just a little bit here. Check some of these videos out. These are all from Twitter.
So let me show you. I'm 38.
Oh.
So 1781.
Yeah. Several aftershocks have rocked this area as well. 5.6, some are reporting. I can tell you right now, hang on a second. I will check really quick. Last I saw, right after the earthquake there, we saw several 3.5s. And yeah, West Valley, Utah, 2.0 just at 7:33. Magna, Utah, 2.2 at 7:15. And then we had several aftershocks. California also, Petrolia, has a 5.2, and there's also aftershocks of 2.0, 2.1, 2.4, but several aftershocks after the 5.6 in Utah, or the 5.7, I should say, and the majority of those are staying at the 3.3 or below. Now, there was an aftershock around 3:12 this afternoon that was at 4.6, a 3.4 around 3:07. So mainly 3s, 1, 4. Then in King in Indonesia, well, it's just been kind of a busy day for earthquakes, not just here in the States with these small tremors and aftershocks, but we have another strong earthquake, a 6.3 that hits in South Bali, Indonesia. And that was today, or yes, March 18th at 1:45 local time. The agency is reporting a depth of 6.2 miles. The EMSC is also reporting the exact same depth. So we had the 5.7 in Utah, and then later we have the 6.3, I know, in the middle of nowhere. There was a tsunami information, but nothing happened as far as an actual tsunami forming. And then we had a 6.1 in Vanuatu. And this one was a strong earthquake, registered around 3:13 UTC on March 18th, 111 miles deep, so not as shallow as the other ones today. No estimates of damages or losses or anything like that. Overall, the population in the region resides in structures that are highly vulnerable to earthquake shaking, though some resistant structures do exist. Predominant vulnerable building types are unknown, miscellaneous types, and wood construction. We're talking about some of these areas are villages, so it's hard to say what exactly some of these structures are built with. Again, no reports of deaths or injuries from this. It happened too far off ashore, but it is interesting to see today that we've had some strong earthquake action. Like I said, several aftershocks throughout the region of California and Utah today. So the news is California had a 5.2, Utah had a 5.7. Other parts, Bali had a 6.3. Vanuatu had a 6.1, and then we have Kangen, Indonesia, that might be the same one, a 6.2. So busy day. And then also Gisborne, New Zealand at a 5.0. So a lot more seismic activity. Also Alaska this morning, Kobuk, Alaska had a 5.0. So, we've talked a lot about weather on this station, quite a bit. And it's been pretty much dominant lately. But now we have 3 strong earthquakes and several moderate earthquakes all over. And, that correlation there is a very, very unsettled seismic activity across the globe right now. So we'll keep our eyes on this. This is just, with everything that's happening in the Grand Solar Minimum. And if you guys don't have the book Upheaval by John Casey, I highly recommend that. It's available on Amazon, I do believe. But John talks about in Upheaval a lot of chances for major earthquakes and volcanic eruptions between the years of 2017 and 2037, possibly beyond. But let's just put this in perspective right now, what we're building so far with what we've seen in the beginning of this Grand Solar Minimum. Grand Solar Minimum, as we had Valentina Zarkova was on our broadcast back in 2017 and this past summer in 2019, the Grand Solar Minimum has just begun. So what have we seen? It's already been a wild beginning with Kilauea's eruptions, with several strong earthquakes across the globe. We're dealing with historic flooding in the United States, Saudi Arabia, India, China, all over the world. The UK flooded out. I mean, probably one of the wettest winters that we've seen in a while. So on top of that, we have problems with crops when we have early snows in the early parts of fall and tons of rain and cold temperatures in early spring. Parts of the Midwest and the Plain States look good for the start of this plant so far, as long as we don't see too much saturation. But we've seen in the last 2 years, the last 3 years really, an uptick in flooding, an uptick in bomb cyclones where the pressure drops in 24 millibars within 24 hours. We've had them crush that record several times. We have seen the increase of seismic activity, volcanic activity. A couple of volcanoes that have shot off in the 60, 70,000 foot ash plume range. And then, of course, dealing with the possibility if we see the continuing inundation of moisture across the Plain States, the Midwest, and the South, well, now we're going to be talking about what our crop situation could be in 2020 and how vulnerable are we now with what we're facing as a world with this global pandemic. So it's possible that we're getting the squeeze on every department of the Grand Solar Minimum right now. And this is only the very beginning, the very, very tip of the iceberg, folks. The volcanoes, the earthquakes, the weather, the crop situation, possible food shortages, possible supply chain shortages, all kinds of stuff. Oh, and I got a special treat for you too, guys. I meant to do it for tonight's show, but I wanted to show a little bit of clip from the debates. CNN held a debate for Biden and Bernie Sanders. There's lots of nuggets in there about their climate change part. I can't wait to show it to you. I'll probably have to do something like that on Friday. But my point I'm trying to make here, talking about these 3 earthquakes today, just like that. Remember, Puerto Rico was unrest for a while. We had some strange activity down there. There were some worries, plate slippage. Hell, we even experienced an earthquake here last week, a 3.1, just 4 miles away from where we live. I was a big sleepyhead and slept right through it. Mari was awake. And it was funny because I remember her telling me what happened. She woke me up, says, "Did you hear that?" And I'm like, "What?" And she got out of bed and she's like standing up in the middle of the room. She's like, "It just sounded like this big truck that was rolling down the street, and then all of a sudden, whack." And I mean, I was not even awake yet. And, Mario was super animated about this. So for a 3.1, for us to feel it as far away as we did, and the way she described the situation to me, definitely it woke her up. And surprisingly, our dogs didn't even bark, which they did after the puppy did. She barks at everything. But anyway, so yeah, just a lot going on, guys. Low solar activity. And then there's that part about, the temperatures are climbing. And Roy Spencer has shown an increase since October of 2019. And it kind of threw us all off because we thought, well, this is going into a cooling trend. Don't worry about that blip. It's going to keep going back down. It hasn't, but several things play into factor with these temperature rises. We are actually going through exactly what we went through in March of 2016. If you remember, there was an El Nino in 2015. Therefore, we got a spike temperature in February and March, just like right now in February, peaking at 0.76. So it wouldn't surprise me to see March just as high or a little bit higher, possibly, before we start to see cooling again, and you're saying, well, how do you even say that? How do you know we're cooling? Well, there's several things in factor. There's this 3.6-year cycle that our friend Scott Rose likes to bring up a lot, and I've learned a lot about that from him. Also, we are pointing in the direction that we are heading into a La Nina type situation in the near future as well. And number 3, we are pulling further away from the sun with our tilt than we are getting closer. So there are so many, and plus we're going to continue to see low solar activity, high cosmic rays, more cloud nucleation, cooler days, less sunlight, less grow time, less warmth. And really, guys, the scary part when you put it all together in the big bowl here, the big picture of it all, is that viruses really tend to thrive in these kinds of conditions. Low sunlight, cooler temperatures, moisture in the air, that we have plenty of. So buckle up, guys. We got a lot to talk about from here on out, really, guys. Aside from what we're going through right now, when you look around the big picture of the climate, the volcanoes, the earthquakes, everything on top of your prep for grand solar minimum, now we get smacked with a fire drill prep situation, and who knows how long that's going to last. Army rescues stranded civilians after snow hits Gurez Valley in Jammu and Kashmir. We talked about India earlier this week, or I think it was last week. The Indian Army airfield lifted more than 160 stranded civilians from Gurez in Jammu and Kashmir, India, on March 15, 2020, as heavy snowfall created difficult conditions in the area. 4 of the rescued individuals were in critical condition, but were assisted promptly. The Indian Army said Gurez is completely cut off from Kashmir since early 2019. Early November 2019. Says here that Dawar Battalion, a Snow Leopard Brigade Army, received a requisition on March 14th from the Civil Administration for the rescue of civilians trapped in the cutoff of Gurez and Bandipora. According to local reports, the operation lasted for several hours and amid the heavy snow. The helipad operated by the Dawar Battalion was made, I don't know what I said the first time, but it's definitely battalion, was made operational despite the extreme snow. Later, the Indian Army and Air Force joined forces in evacuating the civilians. Additional medical staff was also deployed in the Gurez with the help of the Indian Army to fortify preparation against the COVID-19. Moreover, an isolation ward was set up inside the Dawar garrison to quarantine suspected cases. And this goes back to my point that I was just talking about. Like, not only are we we've been prepping for this grand solar minimum. We're getting ready for the conditions that we're going to face. We're already going to have challenges with growing. We're going to have challenges with energy. We're going to have challenges with these numbnuts in Congress that want to make things green and renewable and get rid of fossil fuels. I mean, good Lord, if you vote for Joe Biden, he wants to shut down the coal industry. He wants to shut down the oil industry. And he wants our energy to be 100% renewable, which is great and fine and dandy in a perfect world. But how are we going to keep Minnesotans cold or warm on a negative 27-degree night when the grid is already strained because it's not able to supply enough energy to everyone that's needing it? So anyway, got off on a little rant there. But again, on top of prepping for grand solar minimum, we're now dealing with challenges like this. These folks here were doing a rescue, and amongst the rescue, they have to be concerned about mixing people who aren't infected and who are infected. This quarantine situation is really changing the strategies from a lot of how we do things from here on out. So this is going to be really interesting on how things play out moving forward. Winter ends with an all-out snowstorm for parts of the north central U.S. Up to 20 inches of snow likely. Out like a lion is what I say. In like a lion, out like a lion. You're saying, what are you talking about, Jake? Well, September 29th, Great Falls, Minnesota. 4 feet of snow. September 29th, that would say to me, we're in like a lion. We had snow in October and November. Kind of died down in December and January. We had a sudden stratospheric warming event in the southern hemisphere. Tie that in with the delay effects from El Nino. We did stay wet this winter in January, but it got cold again. We got some snow, and I think up here in the Northeast, we saw snow stick around until about maybe a week ago, and things finally started to melt, as we have been snow covered for the most of the month of February into the first part of March. But that is changing. But winter is not done just yet. Just as the winter season in the U.S. officially ends and spring begins, an all-out snowstorm is set to deliver a final blow to parts of the north central region, particularly the central Rockies, northern plains, and upper Midwest. The blizzard-like conditions are expected to make travel conditions difficult, if not impossible, in some areas. Up to 20 inches of snow is also predicted, and you can see on the map here where that cold air is. And that's been the story with this jet stream as of late. We've seen a lot colder weather in the Northwest. This cold front dips further south. I mean, parts of Arizona and Nevada. Mari looked at me today and was like, I heard they're going to get a bunch of snow in Arizona. Is that true? And I said, yep, unfortunately, that cold front is dipping in that far southwest. Strong winds and heavy snowfall will cause blizzard to unfold over parts of Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Colorado. The National Weather Service has issued blizzard warnings for western Nebraska and southern Wyoming as a developing low-pressure system to the south and strong Canadian high pressure to the north, generating strong northeasterly winds. The National Weather Service also noted that this should lead to drifting snow and whiteout conditions in these areas. As a result, traffic may be brought to a standstill. Checking out the forecast, how this is all going to... So it looks like, I'd say the southeastern parts of Wyoming, the far western part of Nebraska, we'll see the heaviest part of the snow, Colorado, Denver, the Rockies. Folks in the... Now, let's make it clear. The blizzard doesn't have to be, all day long with blowing snow in 2 inches an hour. These conditions I think it's a 6-hour time frame. So this makes sense to me. It doesn't mean we're going to get a foot across the board here, but some areas, yes, likely. But the dark blue is representing the blizzard conditions. And the darker the blue, the heavier the conditions will be. So living in southeastern Wyoming, parts of northern Colorado, and eastern Nebraska, the good news is we're already kind of hunkered down. So nobody should be out in this in the first place. This will be one of those storms where you could just enjoy from home and not have to worry about being stuck out in this. The areas that are expected to be hit by blizzard include Cheyenne, Wyoming, Scottsbluff and Valentine, Nebraska, Boulder, Colorado, and Rapid City, and Pierre, South Dakota. Moderate to heavy snow will fall further west over the mountains of Wyoming and Colorado, but could also extend northeastward to the upper peninsula of Michigan. That's right, Interlachen and Traverse City could see some snow out of this. According to the AccuWeather meteorologist Brendan Buckingham, About 3 to 6 inches of snow is forecast to fall over parts of the central Rockies, central and northern plains, and the upper Great Lakes region. 6 to 12 inches of snow is likely to fall for parts of Colorado, Wyoming, and western Nebraska, as well as a portion of the upper peninsula of Michigan. Buckingham also noticed that 20 inches of snow is possible from the southeastern part of Wyoming, which is the heaviest part I pointed out, to the northeastern Colorado and the Nebraska panhandle, the western part. Here's a look at all the warnings. Blizzard warnings, the biggest section of the country is going to be Nebraska. Their western part of the state is going to see the most intense part of the storm. And then just outside that, the pink boxes, that's the winter storm warning. And then as we get further out east, those are winter weather advisories. The snowstorm will start as rain in parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, northwestern Iowa, southeastern South Dakota, and northeastern Nebraska. However, as cooler air arrives, snowflakes will also begin to accumulate on green areas and then road surfaces as temperatures are forecast to get colder by Thursday night. After the snowstorm, temperatures are expected to get even more piercing cold and forecasting to hit below freezing in much of the areas that receive that snow. So the fact that we're getting cooler air temperatures, we got a fresh snowpack, that might bring temperatures down just a few more degrees than what they're actually forecasting this late in the year. Now, this kind of snow, guys, you all know, living out there in Kansas, these are the kind of snowstorms that pop up overnight, and then you wake up in the morning and it's melted by noon because it's already 45, 50 degrees outside. So keep our eyes on that. Meanwhile, though, we have to look at the central U.S., the southern part of this storm. As we're getting the snow, well, we're going to get some severe weather system here with this. Storms repeat into Wednesday night. Unfortunately, the same area could get hit with more widespread severe weather event through Wednesday night as a vigorous storm system moves into the Four Corner regions. There may be a few, if any, incidents of severe weather during the daylight hours on Wednesday, but a line of storms will erupt in eastern New Mexico and western Texas shortly before sunset. The line will quickly intensify as it moves eastward into an environment with more conducive for severe weather and will threaten areas from Amarillo to Midland with the full spectrum of severe weather on Wednesday evening, meaning high winds, hail, possible tornadoes as well. And you guys can see in that orange, we're looking at enhanced severe weather in Vernon and just above San Angelo. But Wichita has a marginal chance for severe. Lubbock has a slight chance. Odessa is also in that slight chance. San Antonio and Dallas in the slight chance areas as well. Residents in Wednesday night's threat zone should be sure to keep a weather radio or cell phone enabled with the latest severe weather warnings handy, since these alerts may otherwise go unnoticed when many are sleeping. Nearly 50 million people at risk on Thursday. From late Thursday morning until Thursday evening, yet another round of severe weather is expected from eastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma and Arkansas to Missouri, Illinois, and southern Iowa, and eastern Nebraska. Unlike what will occur on Wednesday night, Thursday, severe storms are anticipated to be their peak intensity during the daylight hours. Still, some gusty to severe storms will likely survive after dark on Thursday evening. Thursday poses the greatest risk of tornadoes of the entire multiple-day severe weather risk this week. That's according to senior meteorologist at AccuWeather, Alex Sonosky. He must be from Milwaukee. From eastern Kansas into western Missouri to eastern Oklahoma and east central Texas, the greatest threat for severe storms will be during Thursday morning as what is left of Wednesday night storms moves eastward. However, a second round, a more potent round of storms will erupt later Thursday afternoon, farther north and east, and this is the round of storms that will produce the highest risk of tornadoes. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the GFS map. Here's that system over here that they're talking about that will bring severe storms into the morning of Thursday. There's Wednesday night storms. There's that low pressure kicking up all that snow. So on the northern side, we have a blizzard. On the southern side of this low pressure system, we have tornadoes and severe outbreaks happening. Heavy rain approaching the northeast. The Ohio River Valley will get a dose of some heavy rain. As we already talked about, the Great Lakes getting the snow, 3 to 6 inches. And then high pressure system dominates for a little bit, drying us out, cooling us down in the Great Lakes and Plain States, Ohio Valley, and the Northeast. warmer temperatures coming to the west, guys. It's been pretty cold for you, but with the warmer temps also means more rain for California. We got a system developing off the East Coast. It looks like it's going to go out to sea at this time. That is for March 24th. So unless we get some kind of dramatic change, like a blocking, high pressure blocking in Greenland, which that won't happen that quick, this will not be a nor'easter as far as we can tell. But a big low pressure system trekking across the United States. It's all rain. Spring-like temperatures are already in effect for March 25th. It's indicating when it gets to the northeast, it could be mixing in with some snow and rain, but that could be mainly for higher elevations only. And then just peppered areas of moisture across Oregon, Washington, California, Nevada, Utah, Idaho, and Wyoming. Snow and rain possible. So after this major storm that they're getting this week, it's possible by March 26th, we could be looking at this part deux going out like a lion here for parts of South Dakota, parts of Wyoming, and this one looks like it's going to be a lot heavier in the Minnesota and upper Great Lakes. All rain to the east of this and the south, so Ohio into the northeast. This will all be rain, but heavy snow possible again 2 weeks in a row for the Plain States and the upper Great Lakes. We'll keep our eyes on that storm system as well. And then by the time that one moves off the coast, we got a little bit of action happening in the northwest, Oregon and Washington, more rain forming across the south before getting its act together and heading towards the northeast by the 1st of April, which will be inundated by rain on the east coast and in the south for April Fool's Day, off and on showers, and more moisture for the northwest and snow and rain form. And really, it looks like we might get some calm. Temperatures are looking like they're going to try to warm up. And I'm going to show what we're going to see forecasted for April 3rd across the nation. Guys, all of this stuff that we've been talking about on this channel lately that hasn't been Grand Solar Minimum related, there's a lot of challenges happening right now. And if we can stay dry and warm in the heartland of our countries, right in this area, right where we need it, right here, that's a good sign that maybe this spring will cooperate. Maybe. High pressure, dry weather, except for Texas. But if we look at April 3rd, the beginning of the month, dry across most of the states and pretty darn warm. 70s in Nebraska and Kansas, 80s across the South, mid 60s across the Ohio Valley, and even upstate New York looking at the mid 50s as well. That's pleasant weather, folks. I'm ready for some good news, and it may look like that spring will actually arrive on time. Now, how dry is it going to be? That still remains to be seen, as we are getting closer and closer to plant 2020. I know a lot of folks are saying no plant 2020. I'm going to remain optimistic and hope that we can get a plant situation going. And actually, speaking of that, I wanted to go over this really fast, guys. Bear with me here. Article that Mari had shared with me right before the show had started. And I think it's, you know what, I'll tell you what, I'll go over it on Friday because it's going to be relevant either day today or Friday. So I'll just go ahead and go over that on Friday. But yeah, so weather might be cooperating, but it's still going to be pretty soggy. While I'm here, let's go ahead and check out just what kind of moisture we could expect here over the next several days. Here we go. There we go. So that's not terrible. Let's see where we get all this rain. Across the Midwest, the Plain States that I was talking about, light rain. My brother's calling in. Put you on mute, Broseph. Call you back in a minute. So, some moderate rain, but really when you look at Kansas, South Dakota, it's not a wash. It's not a wash in Nebraska. It's not a wash in parts of Iowa. I'd say the southern part of Iowa has a better shot at getting some field work done this week. So there's areas that are obviously we can work in and obvious areas that we can't. Obviously down in the south, it's going to be a little soggy. Right here, Kansas, not too bad, guys. Probably just the right amount of rain. Same thing for the panhandle of Oklahoma, parts of North Dakota, It's still chilly up there, so we'll just have to wait and see, guys. Parts of Missouri may be possible, but not a lot of areas. We will see quite a bit of rain from the Midwest all the way to the East Coast to the Northeast of the United States. So lots of moisture to fall. And the Northwest, let me tell you, California, there's not going to be any more talk about a drought situation out there. I can reassure you on that as the rain continues to parade in system after system. Mari, do you want to come over here and say hello to everybody before we sign off? And
I will.
Did you feel like going over to our sister channel tonight and continuing a Corona talk, or maybe another night?
I mean, we could do it tomorrow night since we don't have a show.
We could do that.
I feel like it's like an adjustment. Like
it is.
Feel
it
weird. Like we have the kids out of school. We're trying to get homeschooling set up and trying to keep up with all the politics.
I think tomorrow
passing and figuring out what our finances are going to be. I mean, it's really an unsettling time.
I think tomorrow too we'll have more answers from our federal government about issues of finances.
Each day, I think it will settle in. It's maybe a mixture of shock too. I don't know, but I'd like to say you're going to hate us, Jake. I would like to say thank you to our bestie, Matt Bros. He did a super chat, and he said, Jake is sad Tom Brady isn't a Cleveland Brown.
No. In fact, I've got to reject the super chat. I'm going to find a way to reject it. I don't want your stinking bullcrap comment about the Browns. So you can take that, whatever super chat. What was the super chat? How much was it?
I don't remember.
Because he sent me $3 the other day to get a $3 beard.
It was nice. Stop being ungrateful, Jake.
I'm not. I'm just, listen, Matt, I've told you that. Stop donating. Stop donating. Guys, listen, we appreciate the love.
Matt's full of jokes.
We love you, Matt. We love you. I'm just messing with you. But no, seriously, guys.
We'll do WTF Sky tomorrow, okay? But Jesse was asking about the asteroid that's supposed to fly by tonight, Jake. And we did cover that last week. It was on Watchers. Watchers has an article. And I was, just trying to look at JPL ephemeris and to see, because a lot of people, I know, there's a lot of YouTubers out there being like, oh my God, there's a Neroid asteroid, blah, blah, blah. I used to follow these NEOs all the time to the point where I had my own spreadsheet and I was like really into tracking them. And then I was like, this is ridiculous. This particular NEO that's going to be passing by, its name is 2020 FD. It's the 20th known asteroid flyby Earth within a lunar distance since the start of the year and the first of the month. Within a lunar distance at this range, I'm not too concerned about it right now. We could have it break off a piece and have some interesting meteors fall, but nothing like huge or catastrophic. It's rated at a 6. So there is an amount of uncertainty to it, but they have been tracking it, which is a good thing. Usually it's with the asteroids, it's the ones they don't see. It's the ones that don't show up on the NAO list. Those are the ones you need to really worry about coming direct from the sun. They just don't have vision of it. So anyway, what are you doing, Jake?
Oh, Doug's got a song in my head right now.
Corona?
She looks like Cindy Crawford. Cindy Crawford. She looked like Cindy Crawford after 9 Coronas.
But
sorry. I think that's the song that they were talking about.
Wants to,
Weird Al.
Bono has a song for you.
Yeah, Bono wrote a ballad.
Bono has a ballad about the coronavirus.
And somebody tweeted.
Great.
Somebody tweeted out. Somebody tweeted out the Bono song, and then the caption it says, "As if we're not already suffering enough." Bono wrote a coronavirus ballad. So anyway, we're getting off topic here. Anyway, so yeah, maybe Thursday we'll
go on WTF Sky and just have a powwow about our coronavirus prepping. Yeah. I wouldn't mind, talking about some growing. I was telling people in the chat, I was super excited. I ordered a grow light on Amazon, and then right after I ordered it, Amazon was like, "We're not going to ship anything," and I was like, "Oh no!" And I didn't think
But we
they
are
would
getting
ship
our
it.
grow light.
But they did ship it today. So I'm excited because last spring I was so frustrated. I had all these seeds and I did all this planning, and I wasn't set up to really start them in the inside. I tried to do it outside. It was cold, it was wet, it was miserable, it was just impossible to start seeds for my garden last year. You really, if you're in an area like New York, you have to start inside. So I found a relatively affordable, just little full spectrum 1,000-watt grow light, and it's going to be like my new friend while we're locked down in the house here.
Well, and that was going to be our project this summer too. I think we were actually going to try to do a garden. Last spring was a miserable attempt, and no fault of our own. The soil temperature never got warm enough. We had rain all the time. We didn't have any light. I mean, last year's trying to start seeds was miserable. So this year, I applaud you for getting that grow light, because now we're going to be able to start some seeds, and let's see if we can grow something now. I don't know. We'll have to see. Hopefully, we'll be able to.
He said I was mean. Some guy talking about cosmic rays or something wanted to come in and name call. And quite frankly, I'm not in the mood for people coming in with their egos bullying us. So I just blocked them. I don't think it's mean. It's just peacekeeping.
Not even worth talking about.
You gotta make tough decisions like that.
And oh boy, gotta love it.
Don't piss me off, people.
Right.
I'm just.
So we'll do a chat tomorrow on WTF Sky, evening or afternoon. I don't know, maybe twice. Who knows? And then we'll do. But we're trying to get some normal grand solar minimum activity going here for our channel. I promise you guys.
Probably next week start that.
Well, I'll still do the live shows on Friday nights and stuff like that, but I still want to report on grand solar minimum news stuff. Like Monday was a little bit a different situation. I think everybody was in shock what we've witnessed over the last several days. But I think it's important that we continue to talk about.
You can sing to us on that channel as well, Jake.
WTF Sky.
Like I hear all the celebs are doing it. Why can't you?
Yeah, why not?
Serenade people, get your guitar out, put on a little Jake concert.
We'll do a Jake concert.
Jake Corona concert.
No, we're not going to make light of it. Trust me.
Pretend you're Bono.
God, no. Then, then everybody will just, anywho. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Pisces, hello. Jesse, hello. Thanks for tuning in. Doug, good to see you, buddy. Matt, Richard, Knife Collector, David Stone, Jeff Borders, hello out there. Some faces I haven't seen out there before.
Oh, you know who stopped in? I don't know if he's in here. John Burdick stopped in.
Oh, good,
He's in
good.
The thick of it in Seattle.
Yes,
right
he is.
now,
He's been keeping us up to date as well. So.
He's been doing an excellent job updating us with coronavirus numbers. So thank you for popping in and saying hello.
Definitely. Kim says, keep the conversation and communication with us all. Absolutely. So here's how we're going to do it, guys. Grand Solar Minimum news on Grand Solar Minimum channel. And then WTF Sky, which, Mari, I almost wish you could throw a link in here real quick for me.
I can do that.
But WTF Sky will be where we talk about our political events. We will talk about coronavirus and just other challenges that we will be facing in the weeks and months to come. So that way, if you guys need a break from the coronavirus, come to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. I promise you, I will only mention it maybe 3 or 4% of the show and keep it on topic of Grand Solar Minimum. And then WTF Sky, that's where we'll talk about the political side of the coronavirus itself, and everything else that goes involved with it.
Be very long-winded on WTF Sky as well.
There's a lot to talk about.
Quick and prompt as GSM.
There's a lot to talk about.
And it's a winding conversation with the people that wind up showing up in the chat. I'm just trying to get that link. So bear with me. You can yak some more if you'd like.
I'm good. I'm going to close this out. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in tonight to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. We will be back on Friday night with another live show. I'm not ruling out an impromptu live update tomorrow. If breaking news happens, we will be on the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Other than that, we will see you tomorrow on WTF Sky Watch Parties. Matt, man, you're bringing back some memories. Good stuff there. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in once again. I hope everyone stays safe. Wash your damn hands, and we'll talk soon.
Wash your